Mr. Reed, thank you for taking the time out this morning to talk to us. And obviously, we get, about a month away from the election day. There is so much happening. So I know you wanted to talk today a little bit about the controversy, a little bit on the other side with Mr. J. Jones and his alleged joke comments that he would, do harm to somebody. What do you think of the situation?
Well, let me tell you, when I first heard about this, everybody said, "John, you got to slam him." And I said, "Wait, wait, wait. I've been the victim of people rushing to judgment about things that were lies, and I'm not going to do that to somebody else." So I paused to try to check out whether it was true or not. And then, unfortunately, the texts turned out to be true, and Jay has acknowledged they're true. And I think the Democrat Party in Virginia and elsewhere, they've got a violence problem. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything, and we're going to probably disagree very strongly on a lot of stuff, but you got to discipline yourself not to wish harm on other people. And especially when you see that people are being harmed, there are attacks and there are death threats. I have a couple of death threats. In fact, most days now, I wind up having to decide whether to wear a bulletproof vest to run for lieutenant governor of Virginia. Come on, that's crazy. I just think everybody would be wise to rein it in. And I do think that Jay has probably put himself in a situation where he needs to stop and think about his attitude. And especially with the attorney general's office, where you're counting on that person to make reasonable decisions under the law that are fair to everybody. If you're talking about killing somebody's kids to win politically and force them to come around to your opinion, I I hate to say it, but I just think that crosses the line. I'm so sorry, but I think it crosses a line.
Do you think it makes any difference that these comments were made, years ago outside of this current political sort of spectrum, and that they were made not as a direct threat to Todd Gilbert, but as a maybe an appropriate conversation with another lawmaker?
Well, I guess everybody has to answer that for themselves. I just think that some things are kind of revealing. If this was a racial conversation where somebody used a racial slur, I don't think anybody would give them a pass for, oh, it was 10 years ago. And, I talked that way then and I don't talk that way now. I mean, with racial animosity. And so when you talk about raising little fascists and they should die in their mother's arms so that they'll change their vote. I think that's a little deeper than something that's flippant that was said at 2 o'clock in the morning after a drink, and you wish you hadn't said it. I mean, that not that that would excuse it, but that would be something that the average person could say, I understand. I just don't think that's what we're dealing with here. And I'm really disturbed that a lot of the leaders in the Democrat Party don't seem to be strong enough to say, yeah, this is going to hurt us, but we've got to discipline this guy. I know everybody wants to win. I want to win. Win someone. We all want to win. But at some point, you have to discipline people when they cross that line. And I do think this crosses that line, unfortunately.
So, for you, what do you think is the appropriate action for Jay Jones and the Democratic Party next?
Well, I think he probably should step aside. And I don't know what happens after that. Let's say he won with this. Is anybody going to feel comfortable with him making important decisions under the law? Are you going to feel like, especially if you're a Republican, are you going to feel like he'll treat you fairly? There's politics and everything. I get it. I'm not going to try to fool people and say there's not politics and everything. But this is so nasty and, kind of a horrible mindset. Who would feel confident that he would make really fair decisions in this role? And I think Democrats would worry about it too. You sometimes you fight with people in your own party, and would they feel confident that he would make good decisions? I think it's just a total mess, and I hope his heart has changed, and maybe he'll get to do something later. But it seems to me that this probably is in the best interest of his own party for him to step aside. And I think Abigail Spanberger, Ghazala Hashmi, my opponent, she never talks about anything. She's hiding. She won't do debates. She won't do press conferences unless you RSVP. I was a TV reporter for 10 years. I don't remember ever having an RSVP press conference. I don't expect her to say anything because she doesn't talk about anything. But Abigail Spanberger is now the leader of the Democrat Party in Virginia, and I think she should probably step up and fix this situation by asking him to step aside.
Do you feel like this was all came up because of political, sort of tit for tat right now, or do you think that this would have come up in either way?
I think it probably would have come up. Everybody thinks, well, what have I texted that I wouldn't want the public to know about? And there's certainly private things or private jokes that are wouldn't be funny in public. I'm certain that almost everybody has something like that. You should go through your phone and look, is there anything that you wouldn't want someone to see, whether you're running for office or not? But there are certain things that cross the line. Like I told you, when I first heard about this, I thought, that Pol Pot joke is a joke that I've heard told on TV before. So maybe it's just a joke. Especially if you're running for office, it's not a good joke. It's not a funny joke. It's not okay. But maybe that's what it is. But see, it wasn't just that. It was targeting Todd Gilbert, the Speaker of the House, pointing out his little kids, saying that seeing them die in the mom's arms would change the person's political mindset. I think that's kind of a different level. It's not a joke anymore. And I'm surprised it took this long for it to come out. But, when you're running, that's when everybody decides to, kind of think back on all their memories of you and whether you have made mistakes. And in this case, it's a pretty serious mistake, not something that I think you can apologize your way out of.
You mentioned at the start of the conversation that you wanted to give Jay Jones, time to figure out what this really is and is it true because you've been the subject of crazy allegations or, really serious ones, even just last week. With that situation, there are people calling on you to resign as well. For you, what's different in those allegations that make you know that or make you feel like you should stay in the race for your candidacy?
Well, in my case, they're lies, and they were discredited back in April. I embarrassed everybody in Virginia because we proved that they were lying about me. And to call me ugly names, horrible, nasty names now with the same garbage that was discredited back in April, come on. I mean, we all see what that's about. In Jay's case, I paused because I wanted to see, are they lying about him too? Well, they weren't. That's the difference. You go after somebody with a bunch of made up lies and fabrications, or you hold them accountable for something they really did that's in public. And I think it's obvious those distinctions. And I'm sick and tired of it. I think this is why Virginians hate politics, because there are a lot of really conniving, nasty, horrible people who are associated with this. It's one reason I got into the race is that I'm a decent person who wants to treat everybody fairly, even if you disagree with me. And I'm sick and tired of people using lies and smears to try to bully people in politics. I mean, let's fess up and decide we're going to put our opinions out there and let the voters make decisions. But to lie about people crosses the line. And that's why I was cautious and wanted to wait to make sure that they weren't doing to him what they did to me.
With there being just under a month left till election day, where do you think all the candidates should be focusing their energy in these last weeks as voters get ready to make their decision?
Well, I wish I had $2 million like my opponent did, and I could sit in my basement and just run TV ads, but I don't. And I wouldn't do that anyway because yesterday on Sunday, I did 8 stops across the state to try to meet people. I put almost 100,000 miles on my car since I started going to different events, sometimes events with no Republicans. Like, I want to meet people who don't agree with me and try to convince them that I am a reasonable person, that I'm a responsible person, and I'm the best choice for lieutenant governor. So the school behind me, I went and talked to a high school class this morning. You know how many people told me, don't waste your time. Why are you talking to high school kids? Because some of them are going to vote this year and some of them are going to vote next year. And in this particular school, I bet you a Republican has never showed up to talk to these students. And I felt like it was important, if I'm going to ask them and their families to put trust in me, that I spend some time talking to them in their classroom. And that's I still think Virginians want to see a candidate who will work every day to earn the vote. If you're not willing to do the work before you get elected, then you won't do the work after you get elected. If you won't be fair and honest with people up front, then you won't be fair and honest when you're in office. And I hope I've earned people's confidence. I've had to answer more questions than anybody who's ever run for office in Virginia. And that's okay. I'm prepared to do that because I'm a serious person. I respect the voters, and I'm getting out there to meet as many of them as I can. It is not going to hit 8.5 million, but I'm gonna shake hands and meet as many people as I can, even the ones that don't agree with me.
All right. Mr. Reed, is there any last sort of comment you want to add to this today?
I will just finish as I have, and I hate to say this, for the last 100 and some days, Ghazala Hashmi has refused to do a debate. She's the only candidate running statewide who won't do a debate. So what does that tell you? I agreed to 10 of them on day one, 10 in every region of the state. She wouldn't even agree to do the debate at National Public Radio in Washington. I mean, there are probably people who agree with her and don't agree with me. I was willing to do it. I think Abigail Spanberger said it right when she said, don't ever vote for somebody who won't debate in public. And that's her running mate, Ghazala Hashmi. And I'm sorry that she's acting the way she is and she thinks she can just buy TV ads, but I'm going to keep working while she hides in her basement.
All right, Mr. Reed. Well, thank you again so much for taking this time this morning.
Thank you.